Hi, my name is Shelley Grafstein, and I want to welcome you all to this incredible free online conference called The Connected Moms, Parenting Your Teen Through Difficult Times. And I'm so excited today to have Miriam Friedman as our guest. Miriam is a clinical social worker and a private psychotherapist in practice in Ramat Beit Shemesh. She treats teens and adults with a range of issues, including trauma, anxiety, and depression. She is a clinical supervisor at Crossroads in Jerusalem, and she's a former director of Magen. And today we are going to talk about teenagers and depression and how we can help them. So Miriam, thank you so much for joining us. We need your expertise so badly in today's day and age when we see our kids struggling so much. So Miriam, how do we tell the difference between teenage regular ups and downs and something that we have to worry about?
So it's such an important distinction because the teenage years come with such ups and downs just on a good day. Teens can go through periods of feeling depressed or periods of feeling anxious just as part of the normal kind of changes and drama and development that's taking place during adolescence. So I want to go through some of the symptoms of depression, sort of what are the things that you're looking for to identify depression as opposed to the regular teenage ups and downs. So with depression, you'll often see kids feeling sad, worthless, feelings of guilt, sometimes describing not feeling anything, just feeling numb or feeling empty. One major sign that you want to look for is a change in like loss of interest in activities or things that they might have found previously to be either really fun or really meaningful. And now it's just, they're not getting satisfaction from it. So that could be with hobbies, that could be with schoolwork, that could be with friends and family. So withdrawing from friends or family can be a symptom. In teens, especially, and kids with depression, sometimes instead of sadness, you'll see more of like irritability, frustration, anger, a change in that where that becomes more pronounced or a real increase in that. Sometimes, grades dropping, things that someone was successful at before suddenly just becoming too overwhelming, or that loss of interest. Seeing any major changes in eating habits or sleeping habits in either direction. So if someone has like a real loss of appetite where they used to be a good eater or suddenly seems hungry all the time, or likewise developing insomnia, having a hard time sleeping, or fatigue, being exhausted all the time, sleeping more than usual, hard time getting up. Sometimes it can come with like feelings of memory loss, difficulty focusing, and sometimes with self-harm, teenagers who start to hurt themselves, cut themselves, or other things, and sometimes a lot of thoughts about death or about suicide, which we can get to later on in terms of the more serious ends of things. But almost all the other things that I listed can also just happen for teenagers, right? Like sort of losing interest in things, moving away from one group of friends. Yeah, drawing from family, coming back. So, all of these things can be symptoms of depression, or they can just be symptoms of adolescence. So what you want to really look for to be able to tell the difference of when something is really concerning are three factors. One is how long is it lasting? The duration. It's like, are these downs, is this something that's going on for days at a time, weeks at a time? That's going to be something that's more concerning than if you see, a kid could display all of these things in the course of a day, and it could just be a really bad day or two. And then they really bounce back and they really want to hang out with their friends or want to go back to, to their dance or want to kind of re-engage with things. And as long as you're seeing like a healthy amount of engagement and connectedness as well, that's going to be more likely to be on the, on the side of just normal teenage development, where if these, these kind of symptoms or traits are lasting, or moods are kind of lasting on and on and on, certainly for more than a week or two solidly, that's going to be a bit more of a cause for concern. Another is the intensity and the level of distress that it's causing. So, sometimes a kid will say,
causing us, causing them. Okay.
Causing them. it's all going to cause us distress as parents.
I know.
But causing them. So
Okay.
sometimes it's like a kid can come in with a giant drama and I hate myself and I hate all my friends and I don't have any friends. And it's like, as you kind of like, talk and chat, it's like, well, actually, I really do have this friend and I really, whatever. Okay, I'm going to go hang out now. And it's like, it can kind of pass. And like the bark is worse than the bite. And if you see that it's kind of, a lot of noise, but they're then pulling it together and really seem okay, that's also more likely to be on the just normative teenage stress. Whereas if you see that your child is really, really suffering and really in pain internally, then that's, and it's not just a mood that lasts for an hour. It's like, the distress is really affecting them internally and they really feel that they're suffering. That's where it's crossing a line into, a more clinical depression that requires treatment. And the third is how it's affecting their functioning. So when you see someone's grades dropping or someone stopping to go to their youth group that they used to love, or not maintaining their relationships with friends and their kind of performance and functioning in different areas of life to really be suffering, that's also a warning sign that you're crossing into a more concerning, a more concerning area.
Wow. Okay. You mentioned sleep habits. I know when my boys were in teenage years, it was nothing for them to stay in their room for God only knows how many hours, probably 16
Right.
hours a day at some,
Many,
but it wasn't a week. It was probably for months that, we went through that, but
years, a few years.
Yeah, but they weren't depressed. It was just like, they just needed a ton of sleep and school wasn't a priority. And
Absolutely.
so I guess maybe you're supposed to look at the whole picture and not just one isolated thing also.
Right. You would want to see, I think like a major change in sleeping habits in combination with some of these other changes would be where it would become more concerning. Whereas if you have, a teenage boy, especially who is happy, is functioning well, is enjoying life, is engaged, and they have, some changes and start to suddenly need a lot of sleep, that in itself is not concerning. But if you were to see that together with sort of withdrawing socially, withdrawing from school, talking about real feelings of sadness and emptiness combined with the change in sleep, then that would be kind of another, and pointing in that direction.
Gotcha. Okay. So when your teen is going through a rough patch and you see one red flag, two red flags, maybe even a third or a fourth red flag being waved, when do we seek professional help? We don't want to be the mother who runs for professional help at every drop of a hat, but we know
Right.
what goes on too often.
Right. Absolutely. I would say that, parents should not hesitate to speak to them when they're concerned. Sometimes parents will come to me and say, I'm really concerned. I'm seeing, these changes or these symptoms kind of coming up for my kid. And when I ask, what does your child have to say about that? Like, what do they think is happening? And a lot of times people will say, well, I didn't want to bring it up with him or her because I didn't want to make it worse. And I didn't want to. So I think like, the first line, like thing to do is to, sit down with your kid in a non-pressured, non-accusatory, kind of way or setting and just say, I'm noticing these things and I want to check in with you. And like, are you okay? What's going on? I'm feeling a little concerned. You're not seeming so happy, or, I'm noticing you're not showing up for, you're not going out with friends on Shabbos the way you used to, or you're not this. And I want to just check if everything's okay. How are you doing? And really to open that up with them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of teenagers themselves will know, I'm feeling a little down, but I'm okay. Or I'm really overwhelmed. I'm really suffering. I really don't know what to do. And to really kind of sometimes take the cues from them, and sort of how they're describing what's going on. A lot of times be able to talk to their teenager about, okay, you're going through this hard time. Like, what do you do to help to make yourself feel better? And you can brainstorm with your teenager. What are your resources? Do you feel better when you're with friends? Do you feel better when you go for a walk or for a run and you're exercising? Do you feel better when you spend some time with the family? Do you feel better? And to sort of resource with your child and help them think about what they can do, what situations they can be in that make them feel better, and to try those things, to try really supporting them through that first, and see that, if that can make a difference. If those things aren't working, kind of giving them that extra support or some extra outlets or some extra kind of TLC, and they're kind of at a loss of how to feel better and you're at a loss, I think that's the time to turn to professional help.
Sounds great. So how do we identify all the symptoms? Are there any other symptoms that you mentioned? It sounds like it was fairly an inclusive list of symptoms you gave us, but is there anything else that we should be aware of?
Those are the main ones. And I want to also just mention the, the more extreme end with suicidal thoughts, thinking about death and things like that, which is something, again, that I really, if you as a parent, if someone as a parent has any concerns about that and are talking to their child and their child is reporting a lot of symptoms of depression, to ask your kid about those things directly. And a lot of people are afraid to do that, thinking, I don't want to give them any ideas, right? I don't want to say, have you ever hurting yourself, or are you thinking about death, or have you thought about suicide? Because you don't want to kind of plant the idea, which makes sense, but it also doesn't really work that way. That like no one has ever become suicidal because someone asked them if they were suicidal and that gave them the idea. If not, then like it will not resonate for the person at all. And they'll be like, what? No, like, why would I think that? Kids know about these things, especially the more exposed they are to social media. Like these things are on the menu for kids. They're aware of these things as options. And it's really important as parents to check in directly. And even though that can be an uncomfortable thing to do, if you have any doubts or you're really concerned about your child's depression, to ask them directly. Have you ever thought about hurting yourself? I know that's something that kids, I've heard of that kids do that. Is that something that you've ever done or ever thought about? To ask your child directly. Sometimes when people are depressed, they think about death. Is that something that has come to your mind? Is that something you're thinking about? And not to be afraid of kind of giving them the idea. More to be cautious, on the side of not opening up the topic in case it's something they're thinking about. And if it's something that, that they are thinking about, that's an immediate sign to seek professional help.
Yeah. Okay. Are there other signs when we should be seeking like emergency help right away? I guess it's professional, and then there's like probably taking them to like a hospital, a psychiatric ward immediately. When
right. If a child makes any kind of suicidal gesture or suicide attempt, then the best address is a psychiatric emergency room where they can do an evaluation about the child's safety, and what immediate steps need to be taken to keep the child safe, and then kind of determine the treatment path from there.
Wow, it's very heavy for the parent to figure out when a kid is just really screaming for attention. Because I know I hear from some of my clients, their kids threaten, if you do this, you take away my phone, I'm going to kill myself. You take away my computer, I'm going to kill myself. Versus like, when do you know it's something that they may actually do versus like an idle threat?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really important question, and that comes up often. My general, and of course can't advise anyone, specifically, but my general approach to that is, if a child says, if you don't let me go to this party, then I'm going to kill myself, to stop and say, are you in danger of killing yourself? Because if you are, then we need to go to the hospital. Meaning it doesn't have to do with a party. It doesn't have to do with anything, but my responsibility as your parent is to keep you safe. And so if you're in any danger, you need to tell me, and we'll go to the hospital, go get your stuff, right? If you're not in any danger, then I need you to find a different way of expressing to me how upset you are, and how painful it is for you that I'm not letting you go to this party, how important it is to you. But I both to always err on the side of caution, the side of safety. If a child is threatening suicide, I think we have to take that seriously. And I think it gives a very powerful message to a child that, like, this isn't just a way to communicate how upset I am, how angry I am, or how much pain I'm in, but that if I push that button, then it's gonna sound an alarm. And to help kids realize that that's not an effective way to communicate your feelings unless that's what you mean, in which case we'll deal with it.
Go for it, right? Okay, wow, really good advice. Question: all your information presupposes that we have a great relationship with our kids, but there are parents who could never open up the dialogue with their kids about deep emotional feelings because they're not that sort of family that talk about emotions, or the parents are distant from their kid. So in situations where the parents can see there's something going on with their kid, but they can't approach their kid, how deep is this pain, and et cetera, et cetera. Should they go to a therapist? Should the parents go for therapy, or should they, what should be the steps in those cases?
That's a good question. I think that, even without getting into the nitty gritty, share your feelings with me, parents can offer a teenager, professional help. I know I see you're going through something. You don't have to talk about it with me. Would you like to talk about it with someone? Can I look for someone, that I think would be a good match for you? And if they agree to that preliminarily, like what are the things that would be important to you in a therapist, and you want to set it up for success. So if they have a preference for a man or a woman, or religious or not religious, or whatever the thing is, to try your best to find someone who will be easy for them to connect to, kind of on their own terms. So one option is just offering. If they will not engage in that conversation, sometimes if there's another adult, a family member or a family friend or a mentor or a cousin or an uncle or whatever it is, who has a close relationship with them, I don't think it's a bad idea to ask them to broach it, with the child, if that relationship is strained. And the kid could tell them, and they'll tell you if they, are interested in therapy. If you trust your child's school, teacher, or Yoetzet, or whoever's there, they could be an address to speak to, and they could, if your child has a good relationship with them, that they, it could go that direction, or even go through the school. If all else fails, and you're really concerned about a kid, and the school's not picking up the ball, and you're not getting, they're not getting the help that you think they need, then I think parents getting some sort of some sort of, parental guidance from a therapist is the next best thing in terms of how to help the kid themselves.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add for parents who may suspect their kids are going through something, or did we cover it all?
I think we covered it. I guess the point I would just emphasize is that what I see a lot is that kids actually want to talk to their parents, even if they're standoffish, and even if they don't seem like, and even if they're not approaching their parents. A lot of kids would love for their parents to approach them. A lot of kids want their parents to notice that something's wrong. A lot of kids want to feel their parents' concern and engagement. And so I would definitely encourage people to kind of try it, to err on the side of being a little bit, chofer, as they say in Hebrew, and asking again, and saying, I love you, and I'm concerned, and what's up? Are you okay? I'm here. And opening that up as much as possible. And worst comes to worst, you'll get a door slammed in your face. But it also opens a possibility to really giving the kids something that they really want and really need, but aren't able to ask for.
Right, and you're planting seeds, I guess, so they might not open this minute, but maybe a week or two though.
Absolutely, or a year or two.
Yeah, right. And Miriam, where can people find you?
I am best reached. Do you like how to reach me?
Yeah.
Okay. Best by WhatsApp.
Okay. Just to drop you a note.
Yeah.
Best? Okay. Can I put your number up here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. I'm not so fast.
No problem.
Okay. Text. Okay. I'm on my son's computer. So let's see if I can even find. Okay. Tell me the number.
054.
Yep.
656.
sorry, 56?
656.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry, 656.
5182.
Terrific. Miriam, thank you so much for sharing your time and your knowledge. And I think it's something every parent should hear about and have tools in their toolbox to address, and know that we're not being crazy if we run for professional help when we see these red flags waving. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks so much for having me. All right.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. Bye-bye.